Curious choice of location for meeting, Bruce. Most visitors prefer comfort of my office with fireplace and tea. Yet you asked for exposed tower, where conversation cannot be overheard. This suggests matter requires absolute privacy and isolation. How troubling.
I appreciate discretion. What I'm dealing with doesn't fit into either magical or technological categories. Conquest from alternate reality invaded ours, seeking to remake our world according to his vision. He's Viltrumite, alien warrior who views conquest as righteous duty. He's stronger than anything I've encountered, faster, practically indestructible. But he's also ideological. He believes his domination benefits humanity. That certainty might be exploitable.
Sounds disturbingly familiar. I've opposed similar philosophy from beings who claimed darkness was necessary for enlightenment. But tell me about his actual power level. Is he vulnerable to anything? Magic, weapons, strategy. Understanding his limitations helps determine approach. No being is truly unstoppable regardless of apparent invulnerability. Every tyrant has crack in their foundation. What's Conquest's weakness beyond his ideological certainty?
Conquest is nearly invulnerable to physical attack. His alien physiology withstands conventional weapons easily. He claims he's unbeatable in combat, probably correctly. But he has psychological dependency on being respected as warrior. He wants worthy opponents acknowledging his superiority. He doesn't just want to win, he wants victory recognized as legitimate. That need for respect is where we apply pressure. We don't fight his body, we fight his sense of invincibility through proving he's not as superior as he believes.
But how do you prove hidden weakness to being who's never faced genuine opposition? He'll simply interpret any resistance as quaint defiance, rather than actual threat. What makes you think he'll question his invincibility when conventional evidence suggests you're correct about his superiority? He has records of victories stretching across conquered worlds.
He's never faced an opponent who combines multiple forms of opposition simultaneously. Magic, technology, strategy, and ideological counter, argument layered together. Conquest expects physical challenge because that's what he's designed for. But if we introduce variables he's never calculated, introduce magical elements he doesn't understand, he becomes uncertain. Uncertainty creates hesitation. Hesitation creates vulnerability. That's the opening we need. Your magical expertise combined with my strategic planning creates something he hasn't encountered across his conquests.
I appreciate the concept, but there's practical limitation. Magic requires understanding of intent and will. If Conquest doesn't understand magical concepts, magical attack might pass through him harmlessly or trigger unexpected reaction. We could inadvertently strengthen him rather than weaken him. Have you considered what happens if magical interference simply adapts him to magical threats he previously dismissed as non-existent?
That's why we don't fight him directly at all. We use magic and strategy to create scenario where he cannot win without directly confronting his ideology. I've learned that Conquest respects strong leaders who stand against him. If we introduce leader figure who matches him intellectually, someone who argues against his philosophy convincingly enough to create public doubt about his righteousness, that becomes more threatening than any physical assault. Public doubt undermines his moral authority more than weapons ever could.
But who serves as intellectual opponent? He's encountered human resistance leaders before and dismissed them. What makes you think introducing new voice changes outcome? You need someone he doesn't immediately categorize as beneath consideration. Someone whose credibility he must respect even while disagreeing. That's extraordinarily specific individual to locate and coordinate with. Where do you find such person?
Let's get Robin's input.
Conquest views himself as righteous savior lifting inferior species toward perfection. That means he sees himself as parent correcting child, not as tyrant. If we introduce someone who was actually helped by Conquest's previous conquests, someone who benefited from his rule and still chose to resist him, that breaks his entire narrative. He cannot explain resistance from someone who gained from Conquest. That contradiction forces him to either admit his philosophy is flawed or commit atrocities against people he's supposed to be saving, which proves the philosophy wrong publicly.
He cannot dismiss them as ungrateful without admitting he forces improvement on unwilling subjects. That's paradox destroying his entire moral framework. But locating such individual is challenging. Most beneficiaries of tyranny either embrace it or are too afraid to speak publicly. You'd need someone brave enough to risk his retaliation. That person would likely die attempting this. Are you asking someone to sacrifice themselves?
I'm asking someone to take extraordinary risk for their world. They choose to do it. I've found 3 individuals from Conquest's previous conquests who survived his rule and secretly opposed it. They're willing to stand publicly against him during critical moment. When Conquest is positioned to declare final victory, they step forward and argue that his rule destroyed everything they valued. Three voices creating chorus of opposition from people he supposedly saved. That creates doubt he cannot silence through force without proving his tyranny.
What prevents Conquest from simply killing them and continuing his conquest unimpeded? Public murder of dissenters only proves their point about his tyranny. But he might conclude that eliminating them prevents their message from spreading further. Have you prepared these three individuals for possibility that they won't survive this confrontation? Are they truly prepared for that sacrifice?
Master Bruce, Professor Dumbledore, I must express grave concern about this operation's casualties. You're essentially asking three individuals to publicly oppose godlike being, knowing their death's a probable outcome. While noble, this strategy seems to accept unnecessary human sacrifice as acceptable cost of strategy. Surely alternative exists that doesn't require martyring three people. Have you explored options that achieve same ideological pressure without guaranteed deaths of innocent resistance fighters?
I've prepared for it. The three individuals will be positioned in magical sanctuary Dumbledore has prepared. They speak from protected location using amplification charms to project their message globally. Conquest cannot reach them physically, cannot kill them silently. They broadcast resistance message repeatedly, making it impossible for him to suppress through force. Eventually, he's forced to confront the argument rather than eliminating the speakers. That's victory condition, making him address ideology instead of relying on power.
Conquest faces choice between direct confrontation with your magic or tolerating ideological challenge to his authority. Either way, he's placed in position where power alone doesn't guarantee victory. This pleases me. Sometimes defeating tyrants requires making them question certainty rather than destroying their body. Proceed with your plan. I'll ensure wards are unbreakable and amplification charms broadcast loudly enough that entire world hears resistance message. Conquest that ideology will finally meet opposition he cannot overcome through conquest.